Thank you for tuning in to the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. I am your host, Nelson, here on this wonderful Thursday afternoon. And so a lot of things happen in the world of basketball, so we're going to go ahead and talk a little bit about that in this podcast. Now, obviously, there was a game. If you guys paid attention to the previous podcast that I did, which was yesterday, I was talking about the United States versus Serbia game live as it was happening. And now that the game is concluded, I can give you guys a recap of exactly what happened, who played well, who didn't play well, what the story of the game was, this, that, and the other, in case you guys didn't even tune into it on yesterday's podcast, right? Now, in the second segment, I'm actually going to talk about the WNBA. Caitlin Clark breaks another record again. Shocker. It's like every time she steps on the court, she breaks a record. Who is surprised? And I'm also going to talk about a new WNBA media deal, like a TV deal that increases the revenue of the WNBA. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about both of those things in the second segment. Then in the third segment, I found this article related to Khris Middleton. Now there is some sort of, well, it's dubbed as surprise news about Khris Middleton. The head coach recently revealed this news. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about that and the implications of what that can mean for the Milwaukee Bucks and their season. And then in the fourth segment, I'm going to be doing a Summer League recap. So basically all of the performances that happened around the Summer League. And surprise, surprise, Bronny James hit a three-pointer. He finally hit a three-pointer. Oh my God. But yes, we're going to talk about that in the Summer League. And then in the fifth segment, we have a special fifth segment that I like to save at the end of the fourth segment. So be sure to stay tuned for that at the end. And before I get into the first segment, I'd like to remind everybody to please go ahead, use the link in the description to get your comments recognized, or the link displayed below the ticker on every show segment. Once again, the link is GSMCpodcast.net. Fantastic, really helps the show, makes it much more interactive between myself and you guys. Once again, the link is GSMCpodcast.net. Sorry about that. Let me just go ahead and try and fix the camera so that way you guys can see me. There we go. And without further ado, let's go right ahead and get on with this recap of United States against Serbia. Now, I watched the entire game while I was, doing my live. So if you guys were unable to see that, I'm just going to go ahead and recap what went down. So, United States, they destroyed Serbia. At least that's what you might think just by looking at the scoreboard. But it didn't start out that way. It was a very, very close game from around the first half, right? Up until, I want to say maybe 5 minutes left in the second quarter, the game was very, very close. Serbia they had a lead against the United States, and they've been battling to, try and hold that lead throughout the entirety of the game. But unfortunately, the star power of the United States, it was just too much. And on top of that, they didn't have to worry about a ridiculous performance from Nikola Jokic, so they somewhat dodged a bullet. You might say that they dodged a bullet. However, it was more of a team effort from the Serbian team as to why the game was so close. Now, you look at the scoreboard and you're thinking, this game wasn't close at all. It was mainly not close around the second half. That was when it seemed like USA finally woke up. But it didn't start out like that the entirety of the game. The player of the game was Steph Curry. He started out on fire, going off. He had 24 points at the end of the game, accumulated 3 rebounds, didn't get any assists, and a lot of you guys and a lot of you Curry haters, they might say, oh, he didn't get any assists, he didn't pass the ball, this, that, and the other. His role on the team isn't a passer. He's on the team for his shooting and his ability to make three-pointers, right? So the fact that he had 24 points, I believe that is the most points that any player has scored so far on this roster. Any player on this roster, that's the most points that a player has been able to accumulate. And, he obviously wasn't the only player that played really well for Team USA. Bam Adebayo ended up having a great game. He had 17 points. 8 rebounds, and 3 assists. He also was able to knock down, I believe it was 2 3-pointers, or maybe 3. Maybe he hit 3, but I saw him hit 2 3-pointers in this game. And they were both corner threes. And a lot of people like on the internet are saying like Spoelstra is shocked at, the 3-point shooting percentage from him. However, a lot of people also have to remember that the 3-point line is a little bit shorter. Like, it's closer to the basket. So a corner three in FIBA is more like a mid-range shot when you compare to like what NBA players are used to shooting, right? So if you put that on an NBA court, that's like a mid-range shot for NBA players. So the fact that it's closer, he's really benefiting from the closer 3-point line. And let's see, another player that ended up playing really well was Anthony Edwards. He's been very, very consistent for Team USA, and I previously thought it was rather ignorant of him to say that he was the number one option on the team. Seems like, I'm the ignorant one for not thinking that he was the number one option, because this man has been playing some great basketball for Team USA. 16 points, 1 rebound, 1 assist. Again, most of his role on the team is mainly scoring. So, you don't really need to get that many assists, and you don't really need to get that many rebounds, especially when you have Anthony Davis, Joel Embiid, and Bam Adebayo in the paint. Now, Nikola Jokic ended up getting a double-double, 16 points and 11 rebounds. It seems like he played well. However, his efficiency in this game was really, really bad. I believe in the first half, he shot like 5 for 15, which, again, it's like, for someone as consistent as Jokic is, in the NBA, he's one of the more consistent players in the league, right? But this sort of performance where he shot 5 for 15, it's almost unheard of. Like, it's very rare that you see a player like him. Hold on just one second. I'm trying to pull up the box scores, but they're not really pulling up. All right, here they are. So a player like him shooting this inefficiently is really unheard of. Now, he was 5 for 15 in the half, right? But for the whole game, he was 6 for 19. So in the halftime, like in the second half, he was only able to make 1 shot, which is kind of lackluster coming in from Nikola Jokic. You'd expect somebody of his caliber to play really well. However, playing against Team USA, the Avengers, as we call it, I mean, it's really difficult to really get anything going when you're going up against a team like this, especially since players can, sit in the paint on defense for so long, and there is no 3 seconds in the paint when you're on the offensive side of the ball. So you'd think he'd benefit, but he really didn't. Now, you could argue that he was the big reason why Serbia was unable to keep this game close, because his performance and his inefficient shooting is what sort of held them back. Now, I also mentioned before that this was like, now I just want to say, a lot of players that don't usually play a lot of minutes in this game, like for example, Micah Potter, Langston Galloway, and Nigel Hayes Davis. Those guys, they're sort of like the reserves on the team. They don't really meet the same amount of minutes requirements as the rest of the Avengers squad, like all of the all-stars that you guys all know and you guys are all accustomed to seeing play in the NBA. You don't really see those 3 players on the court. I should also note that Derek White he made his appearance on Team USA. He played his first game. He didn't hit a single shot, but he only took 1, and he was mainly there for his defense and for his, obviously, his presence and just being on the court. And while I did say that he was unable to hit a shot in this game, he was able to hit at least 1 free throw, so he ended the game with just 1 point. But aside from that, he was most of the time, he got a lot of turnovers in this game, but he also got a lot of rebounds, but he's there for mainly his defensive presence. Now, you guys might take this performance and say, well, this is why Jaylen Brown should have been on the roster as opposed to Derek White. But I think he's going to get a groove. He's going to get a feel for the game. He's going to be able to, he'll definitely he'll play a lot better as, the rest of the season continues, or the basketball Team USA season continues, however you want to call it. Joel Embiid again finished with the lowest box plus minus on the entire team. Why is he starting? Nobody knows. It is I will continue to scream it from the mountaintops. Joel Embiid should not be starting on Team USA. He played terribly in this game again. He went 2 for 8 from the field and only had 8 points. And every single center on the roster has outplayed him in every single game. And I didn't mention Anthony Davis in this game. He didn't really play as dominantly as, expected from him, considering how he was getting a double-double in every single game. This was more a Bam's game, but still, Anthony Davis was 2 for 2 from the field, ended up getting 5 defensive rebounds and 6 total rebounds, and also had a box plus minus of 21, which is very, very good. And I believe he also had 4 blocks in this game. I'm just checking. Yes, he had 6 block shots. Like, that is crazy. That is a lot of blocks for even for Anthony Davis's standards. You rarely see him get that. I mean, you do see him get blocks, but in a game you don't really see him get that many blocks. In fact, he was the only player on Team USA that was actually even getting blocks, which is just, it's kind of crazy, but very, very impressive. Now, again, I think these are block shots because the number on it, this uses an old box score. Like, the box score is really, really old, and it's like, it's written down like it was like in 1995, and I can't really read it as well. Team USA, I mentioned that they struggled with turnovers in this game. Like, well, not in this game, but like over the past few games, they've struggled with turnovers. And in this game, they turned it around, and we're sort of seeing, the chemistry on this team just get better and better and better. Now, obviously, I'm not saying that they didn't get really dumb turnovers, because they did. Jeez, Joel Embiid, he threw the ball out of bounds because he thought someone was supposed to be standing there, but, what are you going to do about that? So, again, let me know in the comments if you guys think Joel Embiid should still be in the starting lineup or not be in the starting lineup, because, quite frankly, I don't want him in the starting lineup. He doesn't do anything helpful. There is, like, zero impact for him on the court. I'm sorry, but, like, that's just how it is. But aside from that, we are going to shift our focus from USA basketball to WNBA basketball, because Caitlin Clark once again breaks another record. Who is surprised? I'm not. And I'm just going to talk a little bit about that, as well as the WNBA increasing their revenue with this new TV deal. I'll talk about that in the second segment, so be sure to tune in right after this short break.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits, some losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip, you choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift. Oh.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
And we are back with the second segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast, presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this second segment, we are going to be talking about the WNBA and primarily Caitlin Clark. But I mentioned the WNBA because they recently got a new TV dealership, so we're going to talk a little bit about that in this segment. Before I begin, however, I'd like to remind everybody to please go ahead and use the link in the description to get your comments recognized, or the link displayed below the ticker on every single show segment. That is gsmcpodcast.net. It really helps the show. It makes it much more interactive between myself and you guys. Once again, the link is gsmcpodcast.net. And without further ado, let's go right ahead and talk about the WNBA, primarily Caitlin Clark. Recently, last night, she broke a WNBA record for the most assists in a single WNBA game. She ended the game with 19 assists. And, you know, a lot of people really label her as, you know, the WNBA version of Steph Curry. But she seems more like, I guess, someone like Trae Young. Now, you might say that that is an insult, you know, being compared as, you know, Steph Curry to Trae Young, because obviously Steph is a lot better than Trae Young. But I say this because the way that she plays the game and her play style, it's very similar to Trae Young. She takes a lot of deep threes, and while at the same time is still able to pass the ball very, very effectively. And very soon, obviously, she's going to be the league's leading scorer, and the Fever's leading scorer, and she's also going to be, I believe she's going to break the Fever's record for most all-time assists once her career is done, assuming she's still on the Fever. Him, yo, what up? He's back in the chat. That's what he says. And how's it going? Not much. Just talking about the best female basketball player, well, future best female basketball player, because A'ja Wilson's probably the best female basketball player right now in the WNBA. And obviously, you know, Caitlin, I mentioned that she broke the WNBA assist record. This isn't the only record that she broke, however. No, she broke more. She became the first rookie in WNBA history to get 400,000 points and 2,000 assists in a season, right? But wait, there's more. She's also the quickest player to get 400 points and 200 assists. Did I say 400,000? I apologize if I said that. But yeah, so she became the quickest player to get 400 points and 200 plus assists, and this was in 26 games. Now, I believe the second fastest player to do that was Stewart, I think. Again, I could be wrong on that. I'm probably wrong on that. But, you know, aside from that, she became the quickest female basketball player to get 400 points and 200 assists. And again, the only rookie to ever do that. Like, this is historic stuff. This is history that we are seeing right before our eyes. Every single time she steps on the court, it's like she breaks a WNBA record. And I know what you guys are thinking. Well, that was the same for Angel Reese. When in reality, you know, Angel Reese and her double-double streak, it's kaput, it's gone. And really, a lot of people have sort of, or at least I realized, I actually watched her games. Like, she takes only layups, right? She also misses a lot of layups. And when she misses those layups, she gets the rebound, which is how she mainly gets her double-doubles. Now, I know it sounds like hate or logic. I know that's what it sounds like. But that's what I've seen. Like, I can't really argue what I see with my own two eyes. I see her take a layup, I see her miss a layup, then I see her get the rebound, then I see her take it again, then I see her miss it again, then I see her get the rebound. Wash, rinse, repeat, right? Now, Caitlin, on the other hand, I see a WNBA player that is getting double-teamed at half court as a rookie that is, you know, dishing out players, like trying to get her teammates involved, and her teammates either can't catch the ball or her teammates just don't know where to properly stand and hinder her performance. And then when I see her actually, you know, hooping, like playing really well, I see the coach immediately sub her out. And I also see a performance like this, you know, 19 assists along with 20 plus points being wasted because the team ends up losing. What? Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. It's really just, like, okay. Him in the chat, he says, Angel Reese is that's a GOAT. Okay, yeah. Caitlin Clark takes bad shots. He is a Chicago fan, so he's already just admitting his bias. Sure, Caitlin takes bad shots, but those are the only shots that they're really getting, and you need to find something to work on the offensive side. Like, you also have to remember they are rookies. It's like this is a new process for them, and they still sort of have to figure out how the game works. And it's not like that besides, like, taking deep threes, I'm sorry, it depends on who you are. Then it's a bad shot. Caitlyn, it's not a bad shot because whenever she can shoot that thing from however far she wants to shoot it, honestly. Like, she knows the type of shot she can make. She knows what's a good shot. She knows what's a bad shot. Really, it depends on who's the shooter, right? But aside from that, I also wanted to mention the WNBA recently securing a $2.2 billion TV deal, which essentially quadruples the revenue that the WNBA is going to generate throughout the season. Now, we hear this every single... Oh, wait a minute. Him in the chat, he says, Angel Reese hit a 3 too. Yeah, she hit like 2 threes in a game. Yay. But anyways, the WNBA has now quadrupled its revenue with this new TV deal. We hear this, every single time with the WNBA athletes, like, oh, we need to get paid more, this, that, and the other. Now they finally get the money that they feel like they deserve, and I wonder what's the reason why. I wonder who started this trend. It's 100% Caitlyn, because the most viewed games in the WNBA this season are all fever games because everyone wants to see Caitlin Clark pick up a basketball and shoot it. She is a phenomenal athlete. That's just the way that she is. Now, the WNBA, now I'm looking at this article, the WNBA will earn an estimated $2.2 billion as part of the NBA's multi-year deals with NBC, Amazon, and Disney for broadcasting rights. According to multiple outlets, it's more than tripling the value of the league's media rights amid increased demand for women's basketball. Now, this is great. This is fantastic for women's basketball. The new deal is spanning the next 11 seasons and will increase the value of the WNBA's media rights from about $60 million per year to $200 million per year. A person familiar with the deal told the Washington Post on Wednesday. Now, the league's current media rights deal will expire after the 2025 season, and the NBA, which owns about 60% of the WNBA, negotiated the WNBA's new deals that were approved by the NBA's Board of Governors Tuesday, according to The Athletic. Now, I wonder if they somewhat, shot themselves in the foot here, trying to... Maybe if they would have waited a little bit, they could have negotiated a much bigger contract and a much bigger media rights deal for the WNBA. But I will say that almost quadrupling your revenue, I take that as a win. Like, even doubling your revenue, I take that as a huge win. And on top of that, as the revenue gets increased and the viewership of the WNBA increases, there's going to be more sponsorship deals for a lot of these WNBA athletes. So they're going to be making their money not just off of the contracts alone, but as off of, the endorsements that they're going to get from Nike, Adidas, Gatorade, all that stuff, right? Now, well, not really stuff, all those companies and things like that. Now, let me just continue reading on to this article. It's likely that the WNBA will sell 2 other rights packages that could bring in another $60 million annually, according to The Athletic. Now, with the rest of the article, what to watch for? Warner Brothers Discovery, the parent company of longtime NBA partner TNT Sports, can match the deal of the NBA's media rights package, though the firm has not announced whether or not it will. Now, the key background, the WNBA Commissioner Kathy Engelbert indicated earlier this year she planned to double the league's annual revenue from its broadcasting deals as viewership increased. In recent months, the WNBA has broken several viewership records because of Caitlyn, now including a game between the Fever and the Chicago Sky that peaked at 2.3 million viewers, the most for the WNBA since 2001. Again, this is Caitlyn. Now, you can make the argument that, it's also Angel Reese because that is a rivalry, like it or not. This is like the Magic and Bird type of rivalry for the WNBA. And this massive rise in interest in the WNBA has largely been attributed to the arrival with Caitlyn, and obviously, I'm just reading off of this article, and obviously the impact that Angel Reese has had on the league as well. The NBA secured its multi-year television deal earlier this month. Following months of speculation, the league was negotiating with other networks, and under the new deal, regular season games are going to be nationally televised and like 7 days a week after, the NFL season is concluded. Him has something to say in the chat. I like Kelsey Plume opinion on how much they get paid. Now, obviously, these WNBA players, they don't get paid nearly as much as they should. Their endorsements are also not giving them the amount of money that they should make. Like, I feel like athletes, like, they should get paid well into, like, the millions if they are really that good. And it's just unfortunate that they're not able to make that much money especially when you compare them to a lot of the NBA athletes. I know that for the United States women's soccer team, they get paid. They recently had a court case settlement. Not recently, but they had a court case settled where now they're getting the same pay as the men. And it's like, I feel like if you're really good at your sport and you are incredibly talented, it doesn't matter whether or not you are a male or a female. You should be getting a lot of money in return because, it taxes your body a lot. And let's face it, there aren't that many people that are going to be able to do what you do, right? There are not going to be that many people. As much as we like to say, as much as the jokes we like to make about like, oh, I can make a WNBA roster. Can you though? It's really difficult to. Like, it's a completely different game. It's not really, you can't, right? You can't. You just can't. And a lot of people, they like to, criticize a lot of, the female athletes. Now, I'm not saying that they should get paid the same as the NBA athletes. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that they should get paid more than what they should be getting paid now. Because what they're getting paid now, it's appalling. Like, Caitlyn would have made more money in the big three than she would be making in her entire year with, the WNBA salary, at least, before this media rights deal that doubled their revenue. Now, my opinion on Kelsey Plume, me no like her. You want to know why? I am a Giants fan, and she recently broke up with a tight end, Darren Waller, and he retired. And I'm upset. And I don't like it. That's the only reason why I'm not a fan of Kelsey Plume. The only reason why I'm not a fan. But aside from that, we are out of time for this segment. So now I will go ahead and go into the third segment where I talk about Khris Middleton, because there is an article that I recently was reading and it looked like there might be some sort of injury that he sustained, and I'm just going to talk a little bit about that because, I feel like that's important for the Bucks and their season. While he is a rather underrated player, in my opinion, because he doesn't get talked about that much, I'm just going to talk a little bit about that in this third segment right after the short break, so be sure to stay tuned.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
And we are back with the third segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast, presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this third segment, I'm going to be talking about some Khris Middleton news, because the Bucks head coach Doc Rivers recently provided a really alarming update for Khris Middleton, and this could really it might shock a lot of Bucks fans, I guess you could say. So I'm just going to go ahead and get into what the article has to say. So Doc Rivers said on ESPN's Summer League broadcast on Tuesday that Khris Middleton recently underwent surgery this summer. Now, this is very, very surprising because from my knowledge at least, and especially from watching the playoffs, it didn't seem like he was injured. It didn't seem like there was anything like wrong with him. And so this news that he recently went through surgery over the summer is very surprising, like to say the least. Now, Shams and Eric Nem of The Athletic provided the details. According to Shams, the Middleton is recovering from 2 separate procedures. Now, the first procedure is an arthroscopic, again, forgive me if I completely messed up that name, arthroscopic surgery on Middleton's left ankle to address an injury that plagued him throughout the 2023-24 season. The Bucks now, according to the article, the Bucks forward originally sprained his ankle on February 6th and said a month later that he had never experienced a sprain as bad as that one. Now, him in the comments is really surprised. He hit 2 buzzer beaters versus the Pacers. Yeah, this is very, very surprising. But this is what the article's saying. This is what it's telling me. So, whoa. Now, this is the first procedure was on his sprained ankle, and he never had a sprain as bad as that one. That's what he said. It kept him on the shelf for nearly a month and a half, costing him 16 games. Now, Middleton also underwent an arthroscopic procedure on his right ankle. So he had 2 of them on. I think, at least according to this article, it seems like he had 2 of them. Now, per the Athletics, due to a cleanup on lingering issue, he sprained his right ankle in Game 2 of the team's first-round postseason series against Indiana. Okay, so it seems like he was playing through the injury in the series while he was, on Indiana. Now, we have someone else in the chat. Shots below the belt. Bucks killed their season trading that haul for an already peaked superstar in Damian Lillard. They lost Drew Holiday. Middleton is injury prone. He ain't no number 2 option, which is why they have Damian Lillard on the team. Middleton, and I want to make the argument that Middleton was the number 2 option for the Bucks when they won the championship. I mean, he was the closer for the team. You don't really get the title of being the closer unless you are the number 2 option, right? And sure, Drew Holiday was there, but but to my knowledge, he was only really there for 1 game, and that was really in the finals where they really needed him, which, again, not saying that that's bad at all, not saying that I wouldn't want to have Drew Holiday on the team, especially with how he seems to perform under pressure. But again, the consistency that Khris Middleton had throughout that postseason when they won back in 2021, that was second option material. Now, obviously, I guess the injury prone might have changed his second option material, but this is why they have Damian Lillard. And I mentioned on a previous podcast that one of the reasons why Dame probably wasn't playing the same Dame that we usually saw in Portland was because he wasn't working out in the offseason. At the offseason when he was getting traded, or when there were the rumors that were going around that he was getting traded, he didn't want to injure himself. So to avoid injury, he just didn't work out in the offseason, right? Now, I know what you're thinking. Why would you not work out in the offseason? How are you going to get injured working out? I've seen a lot of players, I've seen a lot of athletes, they get injured by lifting weights. I've seen that happen before. I was teammates with with a football player, right? And he literally injured himself just by lifting weights. He tore his ACL just by lifting a weight. And I'm just like, what? So it can happen. It's really difficult for that to happen, but it can happen. Bad luck is a thing. And you don't want to risk yourself getting injured, especially when you're going to get traded. That's what... Oh, and there's also him in the chat. He mentions Chet Holmgren. He also got injured, lifting weights. And yes, that did cost him his official rookie season. So he does make a valid point there. But yeah, so I think Khris Middleton, he's not second option now because Damian Lillard, but he's still a solid option for the for the Bucks, and they desperately need him to play like that if they want to, succeed going into the future. But again, it's going to be really difficult to do that now, especially with the Celtics having a majority of their players under contract for, I believe, 2 more years at the very least, because then again, we have no idea just whether or not they're going to re-sign some of their players, because again, while that second apron is deadly, right? While that second apron is deadly, the revenue of the NBA and the salary cap, it's going to go up, and therefore the contracts that they're going to sign, it might not be as significant and as detriment to the second apron as you might think. On top of that, some of the players might actually want to have a pay cut, because we saw Jalen Brunson take a huge pay cut. We're seeing Mikal Bridges take a huge pay cut. Now, maybe this is going to be a trend for a lot of the athletes to sort of start taking pay cuts in order to win. You never know. And Shots Below the Belt said, NBA players are so frail now. Honestly, I get that feeling too. Like, a lot of these players, they seem to get injured really, really quickly. And, I mean, just look at Joel Embiid. I think he is the frailest of the frail, because he just, he falls on the ground for every little thing. In the next segment, I'll pull up an image where he literally he gets touched by his finger. Like, someone touches their finger on him and he just goes, like, it's hilarious. I might show it off in the next segment. But aside from that, back on the Khris Middleton stuff, because I did get a little bit carried away, and he had a sprained ankle issue in game 2, at least according to this article. The procedure on Middleton's left ankle occurred shortly after the Bucks were eliminated in the playoffs in May, while the second procedure on the right ankle was completed in mid-June. Although it may not be welcome news for Bucks fans that Middleton, whose effectiveness has been compromised by injury issues in recent years, is recovering from surgeries on both ankles. Shams said that the recovery process is going well, however. Now, the 32-year-old was walking around without pain or discomfort in Las Vegas over the weekend and has already begun light on-court workouts, league sources told The Athletic. The expectation is that Middleton will be ready to go for the start of the 2024-2025 season. Now, his numbers were at an all-time low, they weren't as good as you would expect them to be, but they weren't bad. They weren't horribly. They really weren't as bad as you might think. Now, he averaged 24 points and 9 rebounds and 4 assists in the 6 games where, in the playoff series against the Pacers, and also was able to make 48% of his shots and 90% of his free throws. Now, let me just go ahead and see. Him, I have no idea what you're saying in the comments. Face red, droopy eyes. Face red, droopy. Okay, whatever. I don't know what that is. Maybe I don't know if that's emojis, but they're not registering in my chat. I apologize for that. But that's really all that I have to say about Khris Middleton. Again, hopefully he'll be good for the Bucks. I really don't want to see the Celtics win another championship, and I would much rather a whole other team wins the championship aside from Boston. Not a big fan of Boston. So, with that, we are out of time for this third segment. So now I will go ahead and go into the fourth segment, where I talk about some of the Summer League performances, as well as Bronny James, some basketball news, and I will also show you that image that I was talking about with Joel Embiid. Now, actually, Shots Below the Belt says he ain't no number 2. Again, on a team with Damian Lillard and Giannis, you're right. I don't expect him to be a number 2 option. But he can be, he's played pretty well. He's done it before. He can do it again. Not going to put that past him. I mean, again, the injuries, I understand the injuries, they might really be a problem. But does that mean that Paul George is a third option for the 76ers? I mean, maybe he is, but do you really think he's a third option and not a second option behind Joel Embiid? Just a thought. Now, in the second, I'll be right back after this short break. I'm also going to go ahead and pull up that image that I wanted to show you guys, so be sure to stay tuned.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC. to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
And we are back with the fourth segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast, presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this fourth segment, I'm going to be talking about some basketball news, as well as, talking to some of the people in the chat, because I have two of them now. Now, Shots Below the Belt, he said that, I'm assuming he's answering the question that, so Paul George is the third option, in your opinion. I'm having a difficult time seeing that, but at the same time, I could understand that because, Maxey and Joel Embiid, they've been on the team for much longer. So, but at the same time, you could perform like you are a second option despite being the third option on the team. That's all I'm saying. Like, the performance can be there. Like, you could definitely, it's up for debate. Like, it's really a toss-up, to be honest. It just depends on, the situation. It depends on the matchups, this, that, and the other. What matters is that you can perform. And the fact that, Middleton, because we were talking about Middleton before in the previous segment, was performing while all of them weren't there on the team, I don't think that's anything to really scoff at, right? So that's just my opinion on that. Now, I also, before I get into the basketball news segment, I do want to show you guys the image that I was talking about, because I did mention, you mentioned how Joel Embiid is arguably one of the most, and him, I will get to your comment really soon. You mentioned how the NBA players are rather frail in this league, and you're absolutely right. Look at that. Look at that. It cracks me up every single time, because it's like, what are you doing? Like, what? What is that? This has got to be like the funniest image in the entire NBA that I've ever seen in my entire life, because it's just like, it's his finger, and you're gonna react like that just off of his finger? And I'll elaborate a little bit more on that if you guys really want me to, but I do want to get into this basketball news segment because, again, like, there was a lot of summer league stuff that happened. But before I do that, I do want to answer this question. I'm the Warriors GM. This is from him, by the way. I'm the Warriors GM. Are you doing this trade I receive? Trae Young, you receive Andrew Wiggins, Brandon Podds, Moses Moody, and a future first-round pick. Now, no, I'm not doing that. And that's really because I really would much rather have defense as a second option for a guard, because, like, you already have Steph Curry. Yes, fantastic offense, fantastic player, like, just overall. While Trae Young is a great player, and I'm not one of those players that thinks Trae Young is bad, because I really think that he is one of the more underrated point guards in this league. And I'm still not really doing that trade, because I would much rather have a guard that has defense to sort of, help out Steph Curry, because, like, while I do understand that Steph Curry's offense, like, it wouldn't make any sense to me to have two offensive-minded guards. Like, I would much rather have a guard that, is offensive-minded, and then coming off the bench or coming in the rotation, or at least, in the shooting guard, is rather defensive-minded. I really like having a good mixture of both. But that's just me, though. Now, with those things out of the way, I can do a little recap of all of the Summer League games that were going on yesterday, because there were a lot of them. And I couldn't really watch all of them, unfortunately. The only Summer League game that I paid attention to was the Lakers Summer League game. And, the lo and behold, hold on, let me just get the image real quick, because it's huge news. Bronny James hit a three-pointer. Yay! Everyone celebrate. well, the joke is that he's been really, really bad around the NBA, well, the Summer League, and a lot of people have been criticizing him a little bit more than I think they should. People forget that he was the 55 pick in the draft, and people thinking that, since he is LeBron James's son, he is supposed to be playing like LeBron. That's just not entirely true. And there was also some comments on, how should I say, Jaylen Brown. If you remember previously on a previous podcast that I did, Jaylen Brown allegedly made comments thinking that Bronny wasn't going to be a star in the league, or wasn't a pro player. Allegedly, that's what he said. But I really want to point out, Jaylen Brown's first 3 Summer League games, he was 5 for 26. Now, that's worse than Bronny's field goal shooting percentage in the Summer League, where Bronny is 6 for 26. And look where Jaylen Brown is right now. He's a Finals MVP, Eastern Conference Finals MVP, and he has all of these accolades under his belt. He recently just won an ESPY for the best championship performance in all of sports for this year. Yet in the Summer League, he was 5 for 26. So Summer League doesn't determine a player's impact on the actual NBA. Never has, never will. People are overreacting. And Jaylen Brown is being a little bit hypocritical with those alleged comments. Again, allegedly, no idea if that's what he actually said, but that's what a lot of people are claiming that he did say. So off of, Bronny James's performance, it wasn't really that bad in this game. For once, he actually played really solid. I believe he ended the game with 12 points and I'm going to go ahead and look at the box score. What in the world am I doing? He ended the game with 12 points, ended the game with 0 assists, 1 rebound, and shot 5 for 11 from the field. He had a very good starting in, the first half, which, it's, I guess you could say it's a little bit rare considering we're used to all of these other performances coming in from Bronny and things of that nature. And so, this is just, it's a lifetime achievement, for a lot of people, I guess you could say. And it's certainly better than what Alexander Sarr was playing in the recent game where he shot 0 for 15. Ugh, that was bad. Now, him in the chat, he said, did I see the tweet where he never rejected that he said that? I didn't really see the tweet, honestly, because I don't think that, obviously, a lot of these players, they're going to say these things on the internet, and they might be true, they might not necessarily be true. I usually go by what I see with my own eyes, and allegedly that's what he said. But no, I never saw that tweet. I'll go ahead and I'll take a look at that after this segment if there's something to really talk about. But based off of the Summer League games and the performances, the Lakers, they ended up winning 87-86 against the Atlanta Hawks. This is their first win in the Summer League. They're 1-2 right now. And another game, like all the other games that ended up happening, the Warriors, they ended up beating the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Warriors have yet to lose a Summer League game. They won 96-85. The best player for the Warriors was P. Spencer, who had 13 points, 7 assists, and 4 steals. Excuse me for that. And then the player of the game for the Cavs was Porter. He's a guard. He ended up getting 14 points, 6 rebounds, and also was able to get 4 steals. Now, the Suns, they recently beat the Thunder 100-99. Rhodey ended up getting 21 points and 6 rebounds. Now, actually, hold on. Let me just go ahead and get rid of Bronny on the screen because, not talking about him anymore. And Boheim, forgive me if I botched that last name, ended up getting 20 points for the Oklahoma City Thunder. Now, I do see your chat shots below the belt. I will go ahead and talk about that in just after I recap the rest of these games. The Grizzlies, they ended up winning 104-98 against the Orlando Magic. Oh, something about the Orlando Magic. The owner for the Orlando Magic, I know this is a little bit all over the place, but there is a lot to talk about, and I completely forgot to mention that Pat Williams, the Magic co-founder, he ended up passing away recently at age 84, and he won an NBA title as a 76ers GM all the way back in 1983. So just wanted to point that out. Rest in peace, Pat Williams. And, since I was talking about the Magic losing, no better time to do that than there. Now, Scottie Pippen Jr., playing on the Grizzlies. Yes, Scottie Pippen's son playing on the Grizzlies. Ended up, I believe that's Scottie Pippen's son. I mean, S. Pippen Jr. Who else could it be? He ended the game with 25 points, 9 assists. And Da Silva ended the game with 17 points and 6 rebounds for the Magic. Now, the Celtics, they ended up beating the Hornets in the Summer League game 89-84. Ramsey was the best player for the Celtics, 15 points and 3 steals. And Simpson was the best player for the Hornets, 19 points, 6 assists. I'm saying their last names, by the way. Now, Raptors, they ended up losing to the Jazz 86-76. And Freeman was the best player for the Toronto Raptors. That's obviously, his name is ridiculously long. And it's so long it's not even popping up on the box scores. Good Lord. Ended the game with 24 points. Hendricks ended the game with 23 points and 9 rebounds. That was arguably the best performance for the Utah Jazz. Now, the Kings, they ended up losing to the New York Knicks 105-106. And Kolek for the New York Knicks ended up scoring 21 points, 8 assists, and Ellis for the Sacramento Kings ended up getting 29 points, 6 assists, and 4 blocks. And finally, the final game that happened yesterday, the Heat blew out the Dallas Mavericks 92-79. Ware was the best player for the Heat, ended up getting 24 points, 10 rebounds, and 3 blocks. And A.J. Lawson was the best player for the Dallas Mavericks, who ended up getting 22 points and 6 rebounds. Now, that was all of the Summer League games, and I just recapped all of them. Now, Shots Below the Belt said, people confuse the NBA draft for the NFL draft. When college players are drafted to the NBA, they need a lot of practice time on the court. Some quality coaching, basically building their confidence up. Yes, that is true. That is what they have to do. But I feel like that's also what they have to do for the NFL. Granted, there are a lot more NFL players that would probably benefit a little bit more just off of the college program that they came from and going into the NFL. But again, this is some of the things that NFL players, they all have to deal with. This is something that all of the NFL players and something that all of the NBA players also have to deal with. Now, really, I think the big difference with the NFL and the NBA is that you're not going to see many popular low overall picks in the NFL, right? So there's more chance for a low draft pick in the NFL to be really, really good, really, really quickly, as opposed to a low draft pick in the NBA being really, really good, really, really quickly. Especially when you're in Bronny's case. I don't think there's ever going to be a popular 55 overall pick like Bronny ever again. But that's besides the point. So with that out of the way, that's the end of the 4th segment. So now we will go ahead and go into the 5th segment, where I talk about Steve Kerr and his opinions on the rotation, because he did mention how there are a lot of... He did mention some of the things with the starting lineup and how he's proud of and what he intends to move forward. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about that in the next segment right after this short break. Be sure to stay tuned. And we are back with the fifth and the final segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast, presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this final segment, it might be a little bit shorter than the rest of the segments, but I will be talking about Steve Kerr and his comments about the starting lineup. Now, we notice that throughout every single game, there was a change in the starting lineup, right? In the first game for USA, they started Steph Curry, Devin Booker, Jrue Holiday, LeBron, Joel. Then in the second game, they started Steph Curry, Anthony Edwards, Jason Tatum, LeBron, Joel. And then in this third game, they started Steph Curry, Jrue Holiday, Jason Tatum, LeBron, Joel. And the only constant about this team and the starting lineup has been Joel Embiid, LeBron, and Steph Curry. Two of those players I really like in the starting lineup. The other player, I'm sure you guys already know who, I don't want in the starting lineup. Cannot stand it. I think it is an embarrassment. I don't like it. I would much rather see Anthony Davis or Bam Adebayo in the starting lineup as opposed to Joel Embiid. That is my opinion, and a lot of fans also share this same opinion. But again, let me know in the comments what you guys think about the opinion on Anthony Davis starting over Joel Embiid. I think that's just a much better fit. But the reasoning behind this is that Steve Kerr said, quote, "I like those three guys in our starting lineup. We've been looking at other guys around them, and we obviously do have great options, but I like those three guys together." Now, I don't like those three guys together. I think Joel Embiid, I like the two of them together. I like LeBron and Steph Curry together. Yes, please, keep them in the starting lineup. But Joel Embiid, no. Just no. Now, Embiid, he was, according to this article, when playing against Canada in his first exhibition match, Embiid struggled with the roughness permitted under FIBA regulations, and as a result, he picked up 5 fouls in the third quarter and was dismissed from the game. But the center for Philadelphia has gradually picked it up in the subsequent games. Spoilers, no, he didn't. This article is just being really nice to Joel Embiid. I'm not going to be nice because he is arguably one of the best centers in the NBA, just in the NBA, and his style of play doesn't translate to international basketball. It only works for the NBA, and it doesn't make any sense to me how he still hasn't adapted to these rules. Now, despite this and despite these comments, I'm still reading about the article, by the way, many still want Kerr to start Anthony Davis or Bam, since they are more accustomed to playing under the national team. The coach said he would still rather see Embiid play next to LeBron and Steph, as he claims the three players are a big three for Team USA, since they are often the center of attention for the attack. Spoiler alert, anyone on Team USA is going to be the center of attention for attack. It doesn't matter whether it's Anthony Davis, Anthony Edwards, Bam Adebayo, Kevin Durant, Jason Tatum, they're all going to be the center of attention. Steph Curry, for that matter, arguably has the most center of attention because of his gravity around a lot of the players. And he'll get, if there was anyone on Team USA that is going to get doubled the most, it's probably Steph Curry off of a screen because everyone is afraid of him shooting the three. And let's face it, why wouldn't you be afraid of him shooting the three? But it's just Joel, his play style, it just doesn't work. It slows the team down, in my opinion. And it doesn't seem like he plays off of the team like how Anthony Davis plays off of the team. And it's really, Shots Below the Belt had something to say. International basketball has been said to be more physical. Perhaps he got used to playing for frail NBA. Homeboy getting Vietnam flashbacks, lol. That's what he said. And quite ironically how you brought that up. I actually have images showing that exact same thing. So I watched this live. Now, he's right under the basket. You see that he's right under the basket, right? This is a dunk. For any normal NBA player, this is a dunk, right? Not for Embiid. Embiid instead decides to jump into the guy, into the defender, and guess what happens? He misses the shot, and the refs don't call the foul. There's literally, you can see the ref looking directly at him, just lying on the ground, and Joel Embiid looking at the ref where's my foul? Guess what? You're not getting a foul under these rules. It's not going to work. Like, I'm sorry. Doing this, I think it's appalling. I genuinely I cannot stand players who do this, because this should be an easy dunk. This should be an easy dunk for Joel. Just turn around and go up strong, because you are arguably the tallest player on the court. You're 7'1", arguably the strongest player on the court since you are 7'1". Go up like a big man. I don't understand why he doesn't do that. And that's really what frustrates me, because we hear a lot of criticism about Anthony Davis being frail and being made out of glass. That's a common criticism that he gets. I'm not saying that. But on Team USA, he goes up rather strong. Like, he doesn't look to draw fouls. He looks to score. And that's what this team needs. People that want to put themselves in good positions to score and are looking to score and not looking to live at the free throw line. Like, I know it sounds like I'm being rather biased, but this is just what I see. And it infuriated me watching this live. You could actually watch my reaction to the game on the previous segment that I did yesterday, where I believe it was the first segment that I did it, where Joel Embiid, he literally flops. Like, it's annoying to watch, because it's like, that's not going to work. You're not going to get that off. And for Steve Kerr saying that this is going to be the big three for the team, I'm really annoyed, because the Joel Embiid on the team has been outplayed by every single center in every single game. All the centers on Team USA's roster have played far better than Joel Embiid. Again, he got fouled out in the first game. Anthony Davis went off. He didn't play well in the second game. Anthony Davis went off again. And in this game, where he was 2 for 8 from the field, Bam Adebayo went off. Like, it doesn't make any sense. I don't like it. Below the belt, Shots Below the Belt had something to say in the chat. I saw that segment. Your reaction was awesome as hell. Appreciate that. Again, I would much rather a player goes and gets a bucket, right? Especially under these new rules. Like, look to score. If you're not looking to score, what is the purpose of you playing? I'm sorry, that's just my opinion. Like, you can't be looking at, and this is arguably one of the biggest reasons why Joel Embiid's play style isn't so helpful in the playoffs, because the refs, they tend to really hold their whistle in the postseason most of the time, right? There are some infamous games that the refs, they get a little bit too happy with their whistle. I'm not going to, at least that's from what I've seen. And, this play style, it hurts him in the postseason, because I remember in Game 7 against the Boston Celtics, there were a lot of times where Joel Embiid was doing this and James Harden was doing this. This was when James Harden was on the team. And the refs, they weren't buying it. They weren't blowing their whistle. And because they were too busy doing this, they weren't able to get back on defense. And that resulted in the Boston Celtics ultimately beating the 76ers in that elimination game. Like, that play style, it doesn't work in the postseason. And it's one of the biggest reasons why Joel Embiid has yet to make it out of the second round. And it's one of the reasons why I don't think he will make it out of the second round, despite the fact that they have Paul George on the roster now. But again, these are just my opinions on the roster. I wish Anthony Davis was starting. But again, I guess it's not all that bad, because while Anthony Davis isn't starting, Joel Embiid, he arguably faces, like, despite the fact that Joel is starting, he doesn't play nearly as many minutes as Anthony Davis doesn't play nearly as many minutes as Bam Adebayo does either. In fact, like, those guys, they usually get more minutes in this game. I'm going to look at the box scores real quick just to see. And Joel Embiid, he ended up getting the least amount of minutes played, like, amongst the starters. All of the starters got 20 minutes. He only got 16. And Bam Adebayo and Anthony Davis, Bam got 18 minutes, and Anthony Davis got 16 minutes. So they roughly either get the same or more minutes than Joel Embiid. And really, I wonder why. But that is all I have for you guys on this final segment. Again, let me know in the comments, do you think Joel Embiid should be starting? Do you think he should be benched? Or would you rather him be off Team USA completely? because there are some people that would much like to see him off the team because, you know, they don't feel like he should be on Team USA for their own personal reasons, whether it be because he should be playing for Cameroon or France, doesn't matter. You guys have your opinions, but that is all I have for you on this segment. Thank you so much for tuning in to the GSMC Basketball Podcast, presented by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a lot to us, so remember to subscribe to the show, leave a positive review. It really does make a difference. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. And as usual, please remember to use the link in the description to get your comments recognized, or the link displayed below the ticker on every show segment. That is gsmcpodcast.net. It really helps the show, makes it much more interactive between myself and you guys. That is all I have for you today on this segment and on this podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am your host, Nelson, and as always, take care.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn.